I've always regarded us as an average Scandinavian family. Now, at the age of 35, I have been living 10 years in a rather comfortable suburban life with my pretty 33-years-old common-law wife, Sarah Hansen, and 2 kids, Linda 8 and Kenny 6. My profession is bricklayer, but nowadays, high-class expensive Italian glazed tiles have replaced bricks in my daily business. I have my own company together with my partner, Robin. We specialize in restoring bathrooms. We make good money and usually book a long time in advance because a newly restored luxury bathroom with a heated floor is a must for wealthy people. Sarah is working for the local savings bank. Until recently, 75% of full-time at a small local office. When it closed, due to the increasing use of the internet for payments, she got a full-time job at their main office in the town center. Sarah and I met at a real tourist trap, a crowded holiday resort disco with a boozed DJ who kept a terrible sound level. I suggested her to skip the disco and take a walk. To my great pleasure, she accepted, and after some necking on a bench in a park, she took me to her room in the summer house she shared with 3 friends. We didn't waste much time before we had undressed each other and got to her bed. She was great, both tender and very intensive at the same time. As we had very good times together, we decided to continue our relationship. At the resort, I shared a caravan with 3 friends and she invited me to spend the nights in her room. When we parted after the holidays, we were in deep love. Only a month after the summer holidays, she quit her job in her hometown and moved in with me in my house. I had won some money in the lottery and invested it as down payment for a nice house. Though we were together 10 years, and 2 children later, we are not married yet. After living together for a couple of years, I suggested a small-scaled wedding at our embassy in Paris, or in the Scandinavian church at San Agustin, Gran Canary, which are very popular places for quick marriages abroad. I even suggested Las Vegas when a travel agency had bargain-priced charter trips there, but she refused and demanded a big wedding in her hometown's big old church. As none of us have rich parents, we decided to save money for a really big wedding some years later and are still saving. I felt that the big wedding was okay if she wanted it. Sarah is special in many ways. Casually dressed without makeup and her nice brown hair in a ponytail, she is just one in the crowd. But dressed for a party, she can be marvelous. To be honest, I must say that our intimate life is not what it used to be 10 years ago when we moved in together. But how many couples with 2 children can honestly say that they never have any ups and downs in that matter? Most of our friends are exactly as we are. However, the main reason for the latest down is her new full-time job at the bank's local main office in our town. That office is known among local people as the divorce bank because so many divorced people work there, and the rumors say that if they are not divorced when they get a job there, they will be that soon. I didn't care much about that because in a nation where the divorce level is about 50%, there are divorced people everywhere. It didn't take a long time for Sarah to be a close friend to several of her fellow workers at the new job, and she told me in the evenings what nice people they were. Good for her, I thought, and didn't have any objections when she told me that she intended to join a bowling team on Wednesday evenings, and they used to stay for some beer after the bowling. Neither did I care when she joined the group that went for aerobics on Thursday evenings. No disadvantage to having a wife who keeps herself in good shape. Even her Tuesday evenings out for a GI Slimming Food cooking class for 6 Tuesdays were okay with me. Sarah had talked much about her new friends, but not any personal matters, only their first names or pet names, and I hadn't asked for further details. One Thursday evening, she came home late from her aerobics. I finally had enough when she told me that one of the best bands in the country was playing at the big dance hall in our country's capital on a Saturday evening, and her friends wanted to go there. She didn't want to go, but she was the only one in the group with a rather new, full-sized car, a Volvo V70. She had been persuaded to drive them to the dance. Then she told me that they should have an after-work meeting tomorrow, Friday evening, to plan the trip, and hoped that I didn't have any objections. Of course, I didn't own her, and she was free to go wherever she wanted to go. Even if I didn't have any objections, I had several questions. Was it really necessary for Sarah to spend 5 evenings a week with her fellow workers and neglect our children even Friday evening? Something must be wrong in our relationship because even our intimate moments had by gone to a poor level. Too many not tonights, and I'm too tired tonights, and too many lousy quick encounters. I had never wanted to act as some kind of a watchdog against her, because in my opinion, an adult is responsible for her own behavior. But from now on, I wanted to get some more information about her doings before I took the necessary steps. How come all of your friends only have access to old small cars? Don't any of their husbands make enough money to have a decent car? I asked. Lena has an old small car, and the 2 others who are going with me don't have any car at all, she replied. And what are their husbands doing? Are you the only woman at the bank with children who care when their mom neglects them during the whole week for friends whom she already spent 8 hours a day with at her work? I questioned, my frustration evident. Of course my friends have children, but they don't have them every week, and they don't have any nagging husbands who demand them to stay at home as unpaid maids, Sarah shot back defensively. So, nowadays I'm disqualified to a nagging husband, or shall I say a damn boarding house landlord who ought to give you an extra reward for the rare evenings you have time to see your children, I said, my voice rising. I didn't say that, you did, she responded quickly. Yes, I did, because nowadays your divorce gang seems to be your first choice and hold much more importance for you than your family. Keep going, and you'll be qualified for a real membership in their club. Not difficult to get it, if that is what you really want, I pressed. That's not fair. You ought to know I love you and my children. My family will always be my first choice, Sarah insisted, her voice softening slightly. Yes, but we don't understand your way to show it. Not easy for me to tell our children on Friday evening that the singles bar crowd at a shabby bar are more important for you than they are, I replied. I have never cheated on you, so you don't have any reason to be mad and jealous, she said, crossing her arms. But you are beginning to envy your divorced friends for what they use to call for freedom, which in the reality is a desperate hunting for a Mr. Right, who is very difficult to find among all eager men on the Zingles scene. The truth is that they envy you, at least until you have got full membership in their gang, I said. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her expression changing. Keep going out 5 evenings a week with the divorce gang, and I promise that even you are free from children every other week, I concluded firmly. She left the room in anger without any further comments. I got a feeling that our children and I were the next candidates for the divorce bank's long list of crashed marriages. I could try to demand that she stay home on Friday and Saturday evenings, but the benefits of that, if there were any, should only be of limited value for a very short time. I decided to let her make her own choices and take the consequences. The next day, I went to an electronics store where I found exactly what I was searching for, a small-sized Japanese voice-activated digital recorder with a capacity of 4 hours on a memory stick. It was easy to hide it in the V70. My tests were very successful even with CD or radio switched on. It was possible to hear what the driver said. Today it is common for families with children used to spend Friday evenings together as a family fun evening with some good food, snacks, play games, and have fun together. Our children didn't care much that their mother wasn't at home the other evenings, but Friday was important for them. Sarah had promised them that only be slightly late, but still be home early enough to have a good time with them. Somehow I got a feeling that they understood that we had got equal problems in our family as several of their friends with divorced parents. But neither the kids nor I mentioned anything such. They had already been sleeping several hours when a rather tipsy and messy Sarah came home at 12:30 and went directly to bed. The driving time to the dance hall is about 1 hour, and Sarah said they had booked a table for 8 o'clock, why she left sometimes after 6, with her hair still in a ponytail, knee-long gray skirt, and comfortable low-heeled shoes. She looked young and girlish, at least far from provocatively dressed for attention-seeking. She wanted to have plenty of time to pick up the others at their homes and be there in good time for some food before the dance began. I had done some errands during the Saturday afternoon with the car and switched on the recorder when I got home. Sarah was back home about 3:30 in the morning, and I pretended to be sleeping when she sneaked into her bed. The time was as expected, nothing to say about that. She slept until 11 o'clock, and after a quick lunch, she and the kids left for her sister's. I had been out to the car and taken the recorder. As soon as they had left, I went to my home office, connected the player to the PC via USB, and began to listen. Her first stop was to pick up a girl whom she greeted as Lena, who took the front seat, and some minutes later 2 others which they called Mona and Megan, which is a popular form of Margaret, got into the back seat. There was much giggling and singing of the hits the band of the evening was famous for. Obviously, Sarah's 3 friends had been to the dance hall rather recently because they already had dates there waiting for them. Nothing of my interest was said before some of those in the back seat asked Lena, "Did your date have a cute guy for Sarah?" A woman's voice called from the back seat. "Yes. He said it is one of his fellow workers. Newly divorced nice guy with an apartment only a few kilometers from the dance hall," Lena answered enthusiastically. "Good for you too, because your date is married, isn't he?" The same voice from the back seat asked. "Yes, and we are promised to use his friend's spare room," Lena confirmed with a giggle. "Is it the first time for you to get some extra attention?" The other girl in the back seat asked Sarah directly. Sarah's reply got my hair to rise and hands to shake. "I haven't seen him yet, and what can happen this evening is still an open question. But I'm a big girl and been out on my own before," she replied casually. "Any of the eager fellows at the job? Eric and you were very close friends yesterday evening. Did you and he do something inappropriate?" A woman from the back seat pressed further. "The answer is no, and I regret the whole damn evening because even necking with an eager man like Eric at a public place was a stupid mistake I've never done if I had been sober," Sarah responded, sounding slightly defensive. "Somebody we know, some of the other guys at the bank?" The voice continued questioning. "No, it is a married man I used to see out of town only once or twice a year," Sarah admitted. "Oh, holy heaven, have you really been unfaithful to poor Michael for years?" "Doesn't he ever suspect anything?" gasped the woman from the back seat. "No, I'm very careful and I'm faithful to him at least 360 days a year, some years a few days more than that. I love him, very much indeed, but not with such a hot passion I love Tony. After a night with him, even Michael gets better intimacy for weeks when I pretend that he is Tony," Sarah confessed, her tone disturbingly matter-of-fact. "If I'll be lucky enough to find a man as your Michael, I'll be a faithful wife, that's for sure," the backseat voice responded firmly. No comments on that from Sarah. I was defeated. My spouse of 10 years had been cheating on me for years and used me as a substitute for some damn passionate Tony, who obviously is married. I had even been a useful supplier of feeding and housing, as most of her salaries during the first years were used for her clothes. Now it didn't matter any longer what she had done during the Saturday night. However, I continued the listening. "Will Tony and his wife be invited to your wedding?" "Of course," Sarah replied. All 4 of them giggled for a while, and there was no doubt that I was the laughingstock in their minds. Sarah probably said that as a joke, but it hurt as hell when I heard her say that and their giggling. Then there was some more singing and gossip about their fellow workers until they did stop at the parking lot. Even the 2 in the back seat had fixed dates, as one of them said, "If we don't see each other very much in there, see you 2 on Monday." Then all of them left the car. The next recorded sound was when the doors opened again and Sarah, Lena, and 2 men got into the car. Sarah asked, "Where to?" The man in the front seat told her the directions, and a few minutes later they parked the car and went out. Not much was said during the short trip. When the doors opened again, only one of the men was with them. He and Lena were sitting in the back seat, obviously necking, and he guided Sarah to his home, which took about 15 minutes. He left the car with, "Thanks for drive," See you next Saturday." After he had left the car, Lena asked Sarah, "How was Sebastian? Was he good? He was cute as hell, wasn't he?" Sarah sounded disappointed when she replied, "Fiasco, a very handsome fiasco, but a real fiasco." "Fiasco? What do you mean by that? Tell me," Lena asked, her voice filled with curiosity. "He didn't get it firm," Sarah admitted with disappointment in her voice. "What? How in the hell can that be possible?" Lena exclaimed, sounding genuinely shocked. "Don't ask me. I tried everything to get Tony firm as stone, but he kept going soft on me. Tried various techniques, but no reaction from him," Sarah explained, frustration evident in her tone. "So you didn't get anything at all?" Lena pressed, wanting all the details. "I didn't say that. I had him please me in other ways. But he told me it was the first time in his life he tried that, so he was clumsy as hell," Sarah replied with a dismissive laugh. "But you agreed to see him next Saturday again, didn't you?" Lena questioned, sounding surprised. "Yes, because I felt sorry for him. He promised to use medication. I look forward to a more memorable encounter then," Sarah said with anticipation. After a pause, she asked, "And you? Did you get enough?" "Oh yes, he's like a rabbit. 3 times during that short time," Lena boasted proudly. Then Sarah told Lena that next Saturday had to be her last infidelity for a long time. She had noted my increasing disappointment in her new habits of being out so often. She understood that my harsh complaints about neglecting the children 5 evenings this week and being out with her fellow workers have been too much time away from the family. If she wanted her big wedding to be a reality in the near future, she would have to stop this behavior. She continued by telling Lena that she really regretted choosing the banks after work instead of the family fun with her children on Friday evening. Too much gossip in a small town, and she didn't want me to begin to suspect her for being disloyal. I had already made harsh comments about the after-work singles scene. She feared for my reaction if I heard rumors about her provocative dancing with some eager man, or about Eric's hands under her skirt and their necking in a booth. Sarah finished with, "I can't understand how in the hell I could be so damn stupid. One thing is for sure, no more after work for me, at least not before the wedding." Then Lena asked her, "Do you really want to invite this Tony, whoever he is, to your wedding?" Sarah understood that her bragging about her cheating had been a bit stupid, and replied, "No, he can't be invited in any way. Tony Hangman is assisting section manager at our national main office." "So you prefer big boys?" Lena asked. Sarah giggled, at least his impressive physique. After that, there was only music from the radio until I heard Lena say, "Thanks for the evening, see you on Monday." I told myself, "Thanks for the 10 years, you unfaithful woman." I didn't say much to Sarah when she and the kids returned from her sister's late in the evening. She said she was tired and was already sleeping when I went to bed. Monday morning on the job, my partner immediately noted that something was seriously wrong. I told him the truth, and he promised to help me as much as he could. He invited me for dinner after the job, and Sarah got angry when I rang her and told her that I had to work overtime. Obviously, she was feeling a bit remorseful and had done something extra for me for the evening. My partner's wife is a clever woman, and she got many ideas during the evening. The best one, which I accepted, was to pretend everything was okay during the week and dump her Saturday evening at the dance hall. She would get the impression that some of her fellow workers had spread the gossip about her cheating and caused her dumping. Naughty, yes, but 10 years of cheating is more than naughty. Sarah wasn't glad when I came home late. I told her that I had already eaten dinner and went straight to bed. On Tuesday evening, she skipped her cooking class and tried to be nice to me, but got a big surprise when I complained about a headache and went early to bed. Wednesday morning, my partner told me that he had got tickets to the ballroom on Saturday evening, and his wife promised to be a babysitter for my kids. She had even succeeded in tracing Tony and got his home phone number. In the evening, Sarah went to her bowling as usual, but got home earlier than usual. I told her that I was tired, and she didn't make any attempts to get intimate. The thought of being intimate with her was disgusting. To my great surprise, she even skipped her aerobics at Thursday evening and pretended to be some kind of a good wife again, but didn't get much for that because I was tired after a hard and stressing day at work. Friday, we had our usual family evening again, and as I knew that it was the last evening for the four of us as a family, I did my best to be a good, funny guy during the whole evening. We had a very good time together, and when the kids went to bed much later than usual, Sarah suggested we have some wine and talk before we went to bed. I had no objections, and she sat close to me on the sofa and asked, "Are you still mad at me for all my evenings out the last week? I've got a feeling that you have avoided me. I'm sorry and promise to be a much better mother to our children and a better wife to you in the future. Last Friday at the damn bar was a stupid mistake, that's for sure. Tomorrow will be my last Saturday evening out with the girls. I had skipped even that if I could, but I had already promised to drive and we have bought tickets, so it is impossible to skip it." I was very close to saying something nasty about a damn unfaithful woman that is looking forward to getting a medicated, formerly soft man. Instead, I said, "This week has been one of my worst weeks, a real pain in the neck. I've been totally worn out by evening, but I know that the next week will be much better. That's for sure." I meant every word of that and knew I was right. We talked, or more correct, she talked about her plans for the wedding, and I listened until we had emptied the wine bottle. Then I went to bed. Saturday morning, we did the usual shopping together with the kids and had lunch at McDonald's, which the kids usually wanted. I washed the Volvo and activated the recorder. Then a few minutes after 6, Sarah gave me a kiss and left for catching her friends and for the expected medicated date. This evening, she was dressed more attractively than the last week. I looked at her with tears in my eyes. She was a beautiful woman, very nice indeed. If the last week's failed encounter had been her only infidelity, I had stopped her from going for more and forgiven her, but 10 years of an affair with that Tony was impossible for me to take. As soon as she left, I took the DNA test of our children and me and rang to my partner's wife, who came and took the kids to their house. A few minutes later, my partner and 2 of our friends came in his friend's car. On the road, I mailed the padded envelope with the tests and got a feeling that now I was on the road without return. On the road, we made our plans on how to act and choose the simplest possible solution. I should do all the talking, and if Sarah's date and his friends remained sitting, even my friends were only witness. At the ballroom, we found my car at the parking lot, and I used the spare key. I moved it to a parking spot 1 block away. At the dance hall, one of our friends did a recap for Sarah and her party. He came back and told us he had found her in the restaurant section, eating at a table together with 3 women and 4 men. I decided to go into action. We went to their table, and Sarah got very pale when she saw my friends and me. Before she found anything to say to me, I said with a loud voice, "Hello, Sarah. So that's the famous Sebastian the Incapable who didn't perform last week. Hopefully he has kept his promise to be loaded with medication, so you will have better luck tonight. You can stay here forever with the poor fellow. I don't care a bit what you are doing anymore, but I'll take my car when I'm going home. Thanks for 10 years, and goodbye, unfaithful woman." People sitting at the tables close to theirs had heard everything I said and began to laugh. None of the 4 men at her table made any attempt to rise up and attack me. When I was a few steps from their table, I heard Sarah shouting, "Michael, it isn't what you think!" Robin and I went direct to my car, and the 2 others stayed at the dance hall for dancing. In the car, Robin took the driver's seat, and I rang Tony Hagman's home number. To my good luck, it was his wife who took the call. "Annalie Hagman here." "Good evening, Mrs. Hagman. My name is Michael Albertson. My wife is a very close friend to your husband, and I regret to say that I have some information you ought to know." I told her everything I knew and gave her my cell phone number so she could get further information later on. She took it rather cool and told me that Sarah was his second known affair so far. She had forgiven him for the first she found out about 1 year ago, but had been suspecting that wasn't his only. She promised that he was in serious trouble this time. Robin's wife persuaded me to let my kids stay at their place overnight, just in case Sarah skipped Sebastian the Incapable and came home in a desperate attempt to get me to forgive her. That is exactly what happened. I didn't get time to do anything else than bring her clothes to the spare room when she came home in a taxi. She heard that I was in the kitchen and came in and began her attempts. "Please listen to me. I'm sorry and confess that I've been stupid and neglected the family, but I promise that the family will always be my first choice from now on. My relation to Sebastian is not as bad as you think it is. Please let me explain everything," Sarah pleaded, her voice trembling. "Yes, it is not as bad as I ought to think, because now I know that this damn mess is much worse," I replied coldly, staring her down. "I can swear that I've never been intimate with Sebastian," she insisted, looking directly into my eyes. "Only because he failed to do that. But you tried to help him and let that fellow touch you inappropriately," I shot back, my voice laced with disgust. "Please listen to me and let me explain everything," Sarah begged, tears beginning to form. "In that case, you can begin with what you and Tony Hangman did 10 years ago and continue with what you and he have done every year since then," I said deliberately, watching her reaction carefully. Now she was ash-gray in her face. She began to sob and said, "I don't understand what you mean." "I can refresh your memory," I continued, my voice growing harder. "He was your first boss at the bank, and you have been intimate with him regularly during almost the whole time we've been together. His wife told me that he is a real womanizer, and she has dumped him now. Even a disloyal person such as you ought to understand that no man can take such humiliation. Your clothes are in the spare room, and I want you to get your things and your belongings out of my house as soon as possible. The dirty game is over." "Where are the children?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible as the reality of the situation hit her. "At Robin's house for the night. They will be back tomorrow," I answered flatly, offering no comfort. When Sarah heard that I knew about Tony, she understood that the game was over, began to cry, and went to bed in the spare room without any further comments. I took the recorder and earphones and went to the bedroom to listen. It began with singing and giggling as the last week while Lena and the two others shared a bottle of wine. Then one of them said, "What's the matter with you, Sarah? You're so silent." Lena replied, "She's looking forward to Sebastian's impressive physique." Then I heard Sarah, "Last Friday was a damn mistake. Somebody has obviously told Michael about Eric's damn necking. He has neglected me during the whole week, thou. I skipped both the cooking class and aerobics, and I did my best to cheer him up." Lena told her, "But I'm sure you'll be well rewarded tonight." "Yes, but is it worth that?" Sarah asked hesitantly, doubt evident in her voice. "I've been dreaming about and looking forward to my wedding for 10 years. And now I'm taking a hell of a stupid risk for getting some quick encounters with poor Sebastian." "You don't have to be with him," Lena reassured her with a casual tone. "Do it or skip it. It's your own choice. You can dance and have a good time for several hours before you'll decide if you want to go or not to go with Sebastian to his apartment." Obviously, Sarah found her suggestion as a fair solution to her problems as she began to sing and giggle again for the rest of their journey. Nobody will ever know her decision, because I interrupted the party. When Sarah came to the kitchen for some breakfast late Sunday morning, I told her that her escapades with Eric and ineffective Sebastian could be forgiven for the price of the wedding canceled for many years. But being intimate with Tony for 10 years was far too much for me to take. She understood that the game was over, and I told her the new conditions for living as a lodger in my house until she found an apartment. One of the advantages of living together without wedding is an easier separation. We have a law, which gives some protection for the weaker part, but not much of it was valid in our case. Each one of us owned what we had paid for. Sarah had used the main part of her salary after she paid her part of the food for her own clothes, makeup, and hair salons. She hadn't bought or paid very much for our other things. However, I allowed her to take what she wanted of curtains, carpets, linen, and so on, even one of our TV sets and some furniture, and I promised to buy furniture to children's rooms when she had found an apartment to rent, and until then she was allowed to live in my spare room. I suggested shared custody of the children, and she promised to think about it and do her best to cooperate in all matters regarding the children. Then trouble hit when I got the DNA test results. Linda wasn't my daughter. The legal mill grinded slowly, but when everything was over, Tony had to pay alimony for her, and I got compensation from the state for those years I had paid for her. Sarah kept her word about not using the children against me, and I have succeeded in getting acceptable agreements about both of them. We are going to share the custody for Kenny until he is 12, when it will be up to him to decide with whom of us he wants to live. Linda has her room in my house as usual, and it is up to her to decide if she wants to join Kenny those weeks he is living at my place. She still calls me Dad, thou the child welfare authorities have told her about Tony, whose only connection to Linda is his monthly payment. Today he is divorced and lives together with the woman in his latest affair. Sarah told me that Tony got totally mad and accused her of the child support he now had to pay for Linda. Their affair has found a bitter end. The divorce gang and Sarah terminated their friendship after Sarah had accused Lena of telling me about her affairs. They had a bitter fight on the job, which sent Lena to the hospital for a week. Both of them got fired from the bank after the fight, which made Lena's friends furious at Sarah. For the time being, works as an accountant in a ladies' fashion shop and has recently dumped her first boyfriend since our separation. Michael is known as a good guy, and when their friends and acquaintances heard what Sarah had done to him, most of them felt sorry for him. One of them has a pretty sister who had recently dumped a cheating husband. He and his wife invited her and Michael for dinner. Obviously, even the famous Cupid was there with his bow and arrows, because the two have been regarded as a couple rather soon after meeting. Who knows? One day Michael hopefully will get the loving wife he so well deserves. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.